Hey everybody, welcome back to Willson Builds. If you're new here, I'm Zach. Thank you for stopping by. If you haven't figured out by the title of the video, we will be putting the small block Chev into the Ford Roadster today. Okay, so first things first, I just gotta put the intake manifold back onto the motor so I can lift it up with the hoist. And then we'll attach the transmission just kind of roughly, just so we can get the proper dimensions and see where we need to build some stuff to kind of cover the transmission and as well as where the firewall is gonna sit. Okay, so I took the intake manifold off just to check the inside and it was surprisingly really clean actually. So I'm just gonna put it back on. I'm not going to gasket it or anything like that because I don't need to, because I will be changing it. That being said, we're just going to get it somewhat on enough where it's safe to lift it. Okay, so now we'll be putting this guy on. Line it up with the holes here. We're going to get the motor mounts all hooked up. The hardware it came with included lock washers, which is nice. The last kit I didn't even come with bolts. Put a little bit of anti-seize on these bolts. I'm just going to lift the motor with the hoist, and then we will bolt up the transmission, and then we can kind of swing it in the engine bay area and see where it's going to want to go. All right, line up the transmission. So essentially we got the engine prongs here, these bolts here, so I'm not terribly worried about putting another bolt in this transmission to lift it. So we're ready to lift it now. So there are a couple things I want to do before we drop the motor in. One being make a temporary firewall. And how we're going to do that, or mimic one at least, is just a piece of tape. So this one's more important. This one doesn't, I don't really care. This cross member here from the subframe might be an issue, as well as the cross member there as well. The worst goes worse, I will just build a kind of piece there, weld in, and then cut that out. I'm kind of expecting that, so, but we'll see. I mean, it would be nice to get the distributor as close as possible, but I mean, can't win them all. I've already ran into the first issue though, because it's definitely gonna hit that cross member in there. Okay, let's find center of this. So we'll go from where we welded. So, 29. So what is half of 29? 4.5. 14.5. Right here, I made a big ugly mark. So now, just got to figure out, the transmission is not exactly centered. It might be off cantered just a little bit, but we'll figure that out later. Doesn't really matter right now. I'm just going to mark the sides of the transmission when it starts going down. We only need a little bit of leeway here. So that being said, just measure kind of where. And I'm going to call it, it's 3.5 where it is right now. So I'm going to call it 4, just to have that little bit more room. The middle cross member is going to have to come out. I mean, it's kind of overkill anyways, because there's one right behind it, and 2 underneath it, as well as the transmission member that will hold it as well. That being said, we'll just cut it and worry about it later. Okay, now back to fitting. I'm going to raise it a little bit. I'm just kind of aiming this front to the front of the spring, because I know that's dead center. For all what I've been looking at, this is about right. Yeah. So that being said, we'll try to center it now, and then we'll work on the angle. I'm just going to put my measuring device on it. 1.6 degrees. Okay, so we found the rear pinion angle, and it was 1.6 degrees. So now I have to make sure the engine is also at 1.6 degrees. I'm just double checking my fitment down here, and it's looking pretty good. 86.4 again. Let's see how low we can get it. It needs to be, we're at 1.5, 1.6, give or take 1.5. So it needs to be at 88.5. So we'll just go down until we see it, and then we'll check the clearance. Okay, there's 88.7. There's 88.5 right there. Or 88.4, give or take 0.1 we can work with. All right, so there we have the side look. And I mean, where that blue piece of tape is, that's where the Blakester header will come out. And where the top of that buckle is, basically, right there, will be where the air cleaner sits. If we have tri-power, it'll sit even higher. So about at the other blue line there. The MSD is good, or the distributor is good. It looks like the front will be okay as well. So I think we're gonna tack it there. Okay, so we got our initial placement now. We know it's basically all fine and dandy between the angle of the rear end and the angle of the front here. So what we're gonna do now is measure from side to side, or the center, which is right there, to this side. It is 11, about 11 3/4. So we'll go check the other side now. From the middle. It's the exact same, so that's actually centered. Wow, okay. Very cool. I'm gonna make a mark with some tape. All right, so now the motor's all good. We're just gonna measure the motor mounts and where we want them to go. I'm gonna do it 4 3/4 because it's just between 4.5 and 4 3/4. 4 3/4. Definitely fits on the bottom. But we are going to have to take more off if we want it even from both sides. I think we got them all good. I lit myself on fire. Let's see how this turns out this time. All the corners are fitting good. Let's try the other side now, and then we'll just measure again for accuracy. Where'd the bowl go? Oh, there it is. All right. The motor mounts are now welded in, both just a top bead and 2 side beads. I still got to get underneath the mount and weld it. Other than that, I think the motor is ready to come off the hoist. I'm going to pull those back a little bit. I got to still put the hairpins back into their place. So what are we hitting? Cool. Well, the motor's in. I'm really stoked on that. Now, before we gotta call it a day, I gotta put these back in their place. All right, guys. Motor is in the Roadster. This is a big step for me. I'm really excited how it turned out. This is my first motor I ever did 100% by myself with mounts and mounting the transmission and finding the angle on the rear end and the motor. And I'm super stoked how it went. I mean, pretty straightforward. I always scared myself a little bit because it's like, oh, put it in a motor. But had a lot of help from my friend Lee Grant. He is great. He showed me how to do this the first time on my 55 Chevy. He has a YouTube as well, LG Speed and Custom. You can also find him on Instagram. Great guy, does all the kind of traditional hot rods. Yeah, I've learned so much from him. Super happy I met him. Thank you, Lee. But other than that, we are happy that this is here. I mean, there's no other word for it. I'm kind of speechless that it's in. It's everything I pictured. And I'm super excited that I can start working on the firewall and moving forward with the Roadster. Again, if you're new here, thank you for watching. If you've been here since the first videos, so a couple videos ago, I really appreciate it. Commenting, subscribing, liking really helps me out, kind of motivates me to make more videos, and I'm super stoked to be here, of course. So let's continue this. We will see you in the next video. I don't know what we'll be doing, but we'll be definitely working on the Roadster. Well, I shouldn't say that because we could be doing something else. But we'll likely be working on the Roadster, so I'll see you then. Thanks again.